Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the Green Room YXE. It is Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. And we're coming to you live from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I'm Leslie.
I'm Johnny.
And this is episode number 21.
21.
I don't think anybody really, it doesn't matter very
I'd
much to
like to
people
meet the
out there.
person who's watched all 21 episodes.
Yeah. Yes, that would be good. We should, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
give a prize for someone, but we wouldn't know. But this is a live show. However, if you're watching on the recorded version on YouTube channel, hello to you guys too. And you can see all our past episodes on the No YXE YouTube channel. And yeah, so hope everybody had a really good week. Um, I we had a rough week because my dad passed away just on Thursday, and but I feel very blessed and fortunate that just to have been in his presence at all because he was a Canadian legend, and he is a trumpet player, and he played with many, many great musicians because he was a great musician. He played with, he started out with Lionel Hampton, and he went on to play with Ella Fitzgerald and Tony Bennett and Paul Anka and Judy Garland. He had amazing stories of Judy Garland,
Got
and
asked to tour with Woody Herman and the Glenn Miller Orchestra
that's right.
under Ray McKinley,
Yeah, yeah.
and also played recorded. Was a big recording guy. Did some stuff with Parliament in
Parliament,
Toronto.
Edward
Edward
Bear.
Bear,
Yeah, like he just
Lighthouse.
was
I
a
was in Paul Anka's band for 4 years.
yes.
This is a man who provided quite generously for his family just by playing the trumpet.
Yes, he did. He
So,
was a
yeah,
working musician
yeah.
and did very, very well, which is not an easy thing to do. But he was just a sweetheart of a man, and he really showed us the world. And he's not just my dad, but he's Leah, my sister's dad, and Rob and Rick, my brothers. And oh, his trumpet is there. We have his trumpet there. That was nice. Johnny did that. So we've all lost, and my mom, Frankie Stanwyck, we've all just lost a hero. He's our
Yeah,
hero.
he's a legend.
So, but he's not gone completely. He's not here. He's not in his earth body, but he's around. We know that. So music news. Let's move on to music news there. Uh, Noel Gallagher has once again said there will never be an Oasis reunion. There is no going back, he said. There would be no point in a reunion. Noel decided to leave Oasis after Liam contracted laryngitis ahead of V Festival in August of 2009, and with the band canceling the gig. So Noel issued a statement blaming his brother for the cancellation and said Liam had a hangover, and that was the real reason. And then Liam came back and sued Noel, demanding an apology, which he did. And then he quit the band, saying, I simply could not go on working with Liam a day longer. They have since been embroiled in a public feud. And just recently, Noel also has gone on to slam Prince Harry for dissing his family and has said he's like his own brother Liam and needs to shut up. So, oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I kind of like the High Flying Birds, Noel's new band.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Oasis catalog is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, I mean, I don't know.
It was awesome.
It
I
was
listened to that.
yeah.
I listened to,
Well, all the way through. Yeah,
oh yeah, I love
for
that
sure.
first album of theirs. Anyway, so also in music news, Apple Music's support of spatial audio could be a game changer in the music industry. I guess some people are saying, nah, it's not going to be, but Apple, of course, is saying it's going to be because
Yeah.
they want it to work. It's an immersive experience that has made gaming and movie going into this, immersive experience. But it's set to revolutionize the music industry with Apple Music embracing Dolby Atmos. Is it Atmos? Atmos.
Atmos.
Yeah.
Tomato,
Think of
tomato.
spatial audio as a 3D soundstage that can be encoded to sound like a live performance each time the file is played. So you can hear sounds moving all around you. Artists can create these moving sounds on a 3D soundscape That's the spatial audio, and it can help artists make their songs come to life, they say. I don't know. I think they've already are kind of lively, but anyways, think about the difference between apparently, like they said, think about the difference between the Mario game, the first Mario game compared to now. And that's the difference between stereo and spatial audio.
Oh, but I love stereo. So
I
my
know.
my what I want to know is, how much is this going to cost me? If I
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
release, do
How
we have to
good is it going to
re-release,
sound?
spend money to re-release your music
Oh
now
my gosh. You think we're
as?
going to be going through that
Oh my
again?
God, I don't know.
Apple is planning to support the next generation of artists by updating its creation tools. It says it will build immersive music tools directly into Logic Pro later this year.
Was Jim Rondinelli talking about this when he was on our,
I
our
think
show?
so.
Some
He'll
kind he
have
was working
to,
on this and
yeah, he'll have to
something about
tell
that.
us about that. So, this day in music history,
All right.
yeah, 1965, Bob Dylan recorded Like a Rolling Stone at Columbia Recording Studios in New York City in the sessions for the forthcoming Highway 61 Revisited album. Sessions musicians included Mike Bloomfield and Al Cooper, whose Hammond organ on Like a Rolling Stone became one of rock's most recognizable sounds.
Yeah. Well, Al Cooper went on to have quite a career too.
Yeah,
So
no kidding. 1966, the Beatles made a surprise live appearance on the UK television program Top of the Pops. That would have been a surprise. Performing Paperback Writer and Rain. It became the Beatles' last live musical television appearance, with the sole exception of All You Need Is Love.
right.
That little worldwide transmission, that
Mm-hmm.
little
Mm-hmm.
worldwide transmission that maybe no one remembers. Like everybody knows that. Anyway, 1970, Mungo Jerry were at number one
In
on
the
the UK singles chart with, yeah, in the
summertime.
summertime. It went on to become the best selling UK single of 1970, spending 7 weeks at number one and was a hit in 26 other countries.
26 other countries. That's
Mm.
kind of like our upcoming guest
Yeah, I bet.
worldwide.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. The UK release was a maxi single. That's kind of weird. Playing at 33 RPM, whereas singles generally are played at 45
Mm-hmm.
RPM. Weird. 1984, Frankie Goes to Hollywood had their second UK number one single with Two Tribes. It stayed at number one for 9 weeks, making Frankie Goes to Hollywood the first band to have their first two singles go to the top of the UK chart.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
In 2013, Black Sabbath established a new UK chart record for the longest gap between number one albums, when their new release, 13, debuted at the top of the charts. 42 years and 8 months after their second
Wow.
album, Paranoid,
Yeah.
reached number one. Wow, that is a
That's
record.
pretty cool. Yeah.
42 years. In 2016, Meatloaf was rushed to the
So never
hospital.
give up, right? Never say
Never,
never
yeah,
say never. Didn't they
that's
have?
right.
I think Black Sabbath had an album called Never Say Never.
Did they?
Am I wrong?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
No, you're pretty good at those kind of things. In 2016, Meatloaf was rushed to the hospital after collapsing on stage during a concert in Edmonton, Canada.
Yeah.
The singer was
Just down the road.
That's right. The singer was performing his hit "I'd Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That" when he dropped his microphone and fell to the floor.
Wow.
Yeah. He's okay now though, right?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Okay. I should never ask that question. Okay. Birthdays, very
Okay.
quickly. Birthdays 1941, Lamont Dozier,
Dozier, yeah.
American songwriter and record producer, who wrote many hits for Motown Records, including for songs for the Supremes, Four Tops, Marvin Gaye, Martha Reeves.
Holland Dozier, Holland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big songwriting team.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. 1946, Ian Matthews, English musician and songwriter, who was member of Fairport Convention and Matthews Southern Comfort, who had the 1970 UK number one and 1971 US number 23 single, Woodstock.
Woodstock with Joni Mitchell, hometown
Mhm.
girl.
That's right. And 1971,
Have you heard that
Tupac.
version? You've heard that version.
I have heard it. Yeah,
Ian Matthews. It's good.
it is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
different.
I think I might have heard that version before, obviously, than I heard hearing Joni
Ah,
Mitchell.
right. And when we were driving around, Ian Matthews, we had that one album of Jewel Shear covers that
Yeah,
he did,
yeah,
sort of as
yeah,
an ambient kind of pop record. It's really
yeah.
good.
It was
I like
really,
it.
really good.
Yeah.
1971, Tupac Shakur. He was born on this day.
Oh,
And he had the #1 single. Who doesn't know? Who hasn't heard of Tupac? So anyway.
okay.
All right, let's move on. We are so excited to bring out our guest. It's
It's gonna
such
be
a
fun.
treat. Yes, it's going to be fun.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
That's right. Our next guest is a Canadian songwriter, musician, and broadcaster. He was one of the first VJs in North America at Canada's MuchMusic and has since gone on as an artist, recording his own albums. But not only that, he's gone on to write songs for Diana Ross, Hilary Duff, Winona Judd, the Backstreet Boys, Tina Arena, Amanda Marshall, Rock Voisine, and many others. His best known song is the worldwide #1 hit for Alana Miles, Black Velvet. He received the Juno Award for Songwriter of the Year in 1990. Please welcome to the Green Room YXE, Christopher Ward. Woo! Hey!
Leslie, Johnny, thank you so much for having me. How are you?
We're good.
Oh,
We're
we're
good.
excited. We're
Yeah,
excited to
it's
have you on
good-
our show.
good
Thank
to
you for
see you.
coming.
Leslie, I have to say I'm so sorry to hear about your dad passing, and I loved hearing the story that you told about him. It was affectionately told, and what a lot of things he accomplished during his lifetime in the business.
No kidding. He did. He had an amazing career, and yeah, he was an amazing man. So I feel very fortunate to have known
Yeah.
him. Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess Christopher, are you originally a Toronto guy? Is that your hometown?
Yes, I was born in Toronto, so
Okay.
yeah. I'm so sorry about that, but I'm afraid it's the truth.
Well, yeah.
I was
Well,
born in Toronto too,
yeah,
so
and
Oh, okay.
I
All
love
right.
Toronto.
I spent a
It's
good
changed.
portion of my life there, and I love that city too. So
It's a great city.
it's great to be.
I'll stop apologizing then. I feel
Yeah,
I
I
feel
don't
much
apologize.
better.
All the
No,
cities are great
Okay.
in Canada.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. And
Yeah.
Toronto's one of the many great cities in Canada.
Yeah. So of course, everyone knows that you wrote Black Velvet, which was a huge hit. But we first came to know of you as a VJ at MuchMusic, and to me, you were kind of always the Davy Jones of MuchMusic. But
Okay.
yeah, so you just seem like just this little cute guy. So, anyways,
I don't want to be. I don't want to be the cute guy. I want to be the smart guy. I want to be Michael Nesmith. Johnny, this interview is going to hell in a handbasket. We're gonna have to turn this thing around and
Let's
right
just
the
say-
ship, or else
Yeah.
you know.
Let's just say
I mean-
we are big fans. Like honestly, I just
Thank you.
Yeah, we're big fans.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean that as an insult. I meant that as a compliment.
No,
Did
I'm
Was it
sure.
a-
I'm sure you didn't.
No, it's funny how people can interpret things. Anyway, so I we were doing a little bit of research on your career, and
And listening to lots of songs
yeah,
which you loved.
so you
Ah,
you put out your first record in 1978.
this is true.
So
It's a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So you were actually like I did not know that this. I just thought you were maybe a songwriter and you wrote some songs, and as people do, they get a lucky break. And I don't know, I said last week, the harder I work, the luckier I get, and it's which is true for a lot of people in the business. But in 1978, were you a singer-songwriter? Were you a leader of a band? Did you play the Toronto bar scene, or can you tell us a bit about that time in your life?
Just check all those boxes, Johnny.
Right on.
Every
So-
single one of them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I had a band, and but I did make a record for Warner Brothers in 1978, and there was a few lucky things that happened. Jack Richardson, the legendary Jack Richardson, after whom the Juno for Producer of the Year is named, and he produced the Guess Who records and Bob Seger and all these incredible people. he was producing a record for an American artist, and the label managed to get me sort of piggybacked on that session. So all these amazing players that were brought in for that record, including people like Steve Ferroni on drums, who, as you probably know, was with Average White Band, and then Duran Duran, and then was with Tom Petty's band for the last 25 years of that band. He was on the session, and just all these amazing players. So I had this instant overnight education by being able to be in the presence of all of this talent, and I learned a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah.
No kidding. I just think, you mentioned all these incredible musicians and coming in and playing these sessions, and it does make me think, like, I could be wrong, but is that an era that's kind of gone? Because you know what I mean? Like, we will, and I'm thinking even in my dad's era, and
Right.
there were so many great musicians. There were session musicians, and I don't know if do we have that still? I don't know if we do. I know there's lots of great musicians out there,
Well,
but not kind of that huge amount of just talent that was happening.
I think there are, but they're not as concentrated. Like when you look back to session players, you think of from the 60s and 70s, like the Wrecking Crew in Los Angeles, who they made a movie about, or
Yeah.
the Muscle Shoals guys, the Swampers, who recorded with Otis and Aretha Franklin and all those people, or the Motown guys. They were these celebrated, very tight-knit groups of players, and they played on everybody's record who came through the room, right? Who was signed to the label or whatever. But just recently, like the record that I made, I mean, partly because of COVID and nobody was touring and nobody was playing clubs or anything, I got to have the best players in the country play on a record, and they all played live, and it was fantastic. Would they call themselves session players? I don't know. I mean, they play in bands and they do all different things, but you know what it's like to be a musician. You say yes a lot, and and hope that it's a good gig, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. It's true.
Well, and in the recording, the whole industry, the music industry, and the whole recording industry has changed. The digital platform has sort of liberalized that whole playing
That's
field.
true.
So you can spend hours and hours and hours perfecting something, whereas back in the day, the pros would come in and it'd be like, and they play their part,
Yeah,
and
they
it'd be
just do
like
their thing.
it'd be like magic. And if they had to go and spot erase something or punch in or whatever, it'd be like,
Yeah.
a long process. But nowadays it's like click, 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 and email me the file sort of thing. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't like working that way. I mean, I do when because let's face it, it's necessary sometimes just because of people being in different cities and wanting to work together. But for instance, when we made this record, the players they'd never heard the songs before they got to the studio, and they were kind of a little uncertain about that. But I thought there's going to be some excitement. People will be like sitting on the edge of their seats and very focused, and you get that incredible energy when somebody's playing something for the first time, and they're having to visually relate to the other guys in the room, and there's body language involved, and that's where the magic comes from for me. It is admittedly a very old school way of making music, but that's where I get my excitement and joy from it.
Oh, absolutely. If you can,
Yeah.
if that's the luxury you can afford, I guess that's the way to go. Working in the studio with live musicians, doing over and over. We made
No
records that way
kidding.
once upon a time, but
Yeah. Yeah.
mostly now we just use our computer as a tape machine, which is kind of old in a way, the old-fashioned way of recording. But
Did you guys? I'm curious. Did you guys do the Pursuit records? Did you do them live off the floor, or did you sort of, have the drummer lay down his part and then have the bass player and so on and so forth?
well, we recorded. The Pursuit of Happiness at that time was a smoking tight live unit, and we went into Todd's studio and we all played at the same time. But I think generally we focused on recording one of the parts, and if we didn't get a part, we could go back and fix it. So there was a
Right.
live element to that off the floor.
Right. Yeah.
Vocals were overdubbed, guitar solos were overdubbed.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was
Yeah. We did the
quick.
same.
Yeah, that first Pursuit of Happiness record was recorded in like three and a half, recorded and mixed in like three and a half weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there wasn't
That's quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not a
But
lot,
He
not a
was
lot.
just he was
that's
just
some
capturing
speedy
live
work.
things. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, wow, I wish that would have lasted longer because it was so much fun, right?
Yeah.
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 So back in the day, there were you like, were you hustling? Were you focused on? I'm in a band. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I want to get a record deal. And were you? How was it? Was it different? Was it just send the guy a cassette, beg him to come see you play, and hopefully they would, or
Kind of.
yeah, and you
Yeah,
got the
kind
club.
of. I mean, I was very focused. I definitely wanted to be. It's funny because looking back, you know how you learn things about yourself in hindsight, and I realized that I didn't want to be a star. I wanted to be a songwriter, and I love the recording process, and I love the collaboration of working with players and other songwriters and so on. And that was where the joy and the magic of it was for me, which is why I probably morphed more into a behind the scenes person musically than a guy who was, in the spotlight.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So at what point in your career were you going like, hey, buddy, there's a chance here that you could be this thing called a VJ at this thing called MuchMusic, where you play music videos and you do interview people. How was that
Yeah.
presented to
How
you?
did
Was there
that
was there a
happen?
call out, or were you like
Uh,
someone tasked
No,
you?
no,
Or,
it's a funny set of circumstances. Well, my career as a touring musician came to a crashing conclusion in beautiful Saskatoon, and yeah, it was a combination of things. The van broke down, the tour got canceled, the bar owners didn't want to pay us, and it was just a bad series of circumstances. So I kind of went home to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, and I thought, well, I better become a better entertainer one way or another. So I took Second City workshops, and they asked me to audition for the touring company, and which I did, and then they asked me to my surprise to be in the touring company, and so I did that for about a year and a half, and then on my last show, a guy named John Martin, who was the program director at eventually MuchMusic, but he had that show called The New Music before that.
yeah,
He
right.
he came to see me, and he said, "Come to my office on Monday. I got an offer for you." That was like a lot from John to get that much out of him. But I went to his office, and he said, "Okay, so we're doing this all night video show on Friday and Saturday nights from midnight till 6 in the morning. We want you to host it." And I was at that point just ready to kind of go back into full-time songwriting and music, and I was developing Alana Miles' career at that point too. Right? We were a couple, and we were working on her music. And he looked at me. He gave me that that expression people give you, like, "Do you have to be so tiresome?" That kind of expression. And right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he says, Christopher, you need the money, don't you? I'm like, well, yeah, yeah. And he says, and you can do anything you want. Anything I want. Yeah, just do whatever you want. In other words, you have a television network at your disposal. Just have
Right.
some fun. And I had just come from being in Second City doing comedy, so I thought, well, yeah, maybe I could make this work somehow, So, but what happened in the meantime? Well, so we did that show for about 9 months, and in the meantime, they got the license from the CRTC for the music channel, and they started developing the idea for MuchMusic. And then I became, along with JD Roberts, the first VJ on Much, August 1984.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Hey, are
Yeah.
you still in touch with JD Roberts? Isn't he down in the isn't
Yeah.
he
Worked
down in the
for Fox
States?
News or
Yeah.
something.
He's actually the chief White House correspondent for Fox News with JD
Yeah.
Roberts. Yeah. And you know what? The thing is, he's great at that. He's really he thinks on his feet so well. He's a tremendous broadcaster. So, yeah.
Yeah, you both
When
went
I
on
wrote a
to
book,
amazing things. Like, wow.
I wrote a book about the history of the early days of Much, and he was the first
Yeah.
person I called. I thought, if I don't get JD, I don't have a story here. And he
Right.
got back to me in like 5 minutes, and so we had a great
Aw.
yak about the days, back in the day.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
co-wrote that book with Mike Myers. Is that?
No, Mike wrote the foreword.
Mike wrote the forward. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's another thing that I didn't know, that you wrote all these books, and we'll talk about some of that in a bit.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
first, I want to talk a bit about what happened in Saskatoon.
Well, I gave you the shortened version of it.
Right.
The
What was it?
van
The
broke.
van broke. Come on, the van broke down.
I want to know what club it was.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember?
What happens if they come chasing me down, though? Because these guys, they're pretty tough guys.
Yeah, they won't. I don't know where to find
Okay.
you, so that
All right.
I'm not
It was
going to
called
tell them anything.
It was called the A4,
Ah, yes.
which was named after four brothers
Yeah.
whose name started with A.
Yeah. I think they're still involved in the restaurant business in Saskatoon. The A4 is long gone. It's one of the first bars that I snuck into underage, and used to see the Queen City Kids there. And
Oh, that's
I think
funny.
the Pumps and stuff like that back in the day. Okay. Well, that would have been, what year was that again? 87? You said?
Oh,
No,
God. No, it was 1982, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Wow.
don't know.
I might have even come to see you had you played that one.
Yes.
Now you've always been a songwriter. That is awesome. And you got offered this gig thinking like, I'll just do it for the money, because I mean, we're lifelong musicians, and I know that I've done all kinds of crazy jobs to get me from one, tour to the next tour, or we're off the road. You got to get some money. So you just, you paint houses, you deliver things, you do whatever you can. Right. I've never been like a career minded, moving up the ladder kind of guy. It's always been, I need to do what I need to do to get the music out there. And that's one of the remarkable things that I love about people like you, and, present company included, and all our musician friends who just have that drive to know that they want to do it, and that they're going to do whatever they have to.
They just do whatever. You just try stuff, like you being offered the VJ. It's just like, okay, well, I did this, and it is kind of, it's like those stepping stones too, in a way, because it was perfect really for you after Second City, just going to do something like that. And
yeah, I mean, it's funny, you can look back and impose order on events. You can kind of give them a logic so that it looks like, oh, well, you went from A to B to C. That only makes sense. But at the time, of course, it was just pure, chaos and good luck or whatever that landed you where you got.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it does feel like chaotic for sure. But looking back, it's like, oh, it's all makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
were you when you were touring with the SCTV touring thing, were you who was in the cast? Is there anyone that you were,
Yeah, it was a super talented cast. There's a guy named Bruce Peary, who's a fantastic writer and director. He ended up directing many, many Second City shows after that. Deborah McGrath, wonderful actor. She was in Little Mosque. I think she played the mayor, but she's done just tons of work. Super talented. Ron James was in the cast, who is a pretty well-known Canadian comedian.
Yeah.
And Mike Myers was in the cast. So there was no shortage of talent. Let's put it that way. I was like the weakest link for sure in that chain.
Oh, go on. No.
No. Seriously. All jokes aside, the talent level was pretty stupid, so.
Yeah. Right. Did you do many shows on Lombard Street down there? Is that?
No, I was in the touring company mostly, Johnny. I mean, we did, the final night of a shoe salesman convention in Barrie. That was like those were our gigs, and the sound system was really bad, and the guys were hungover, and they really didn't damn about us, and it was an education, let's say.
Yeah.
In show business.
That's.
Or shoe business, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Where the rubber hits the road, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. Soul music, right?
Yeah. Did you do stand up on your own too? Did you do a lot of stand up?
Oh, no. That's too dangerous. I mean, I don't know how people do that. I mean, it's just like, it's one thing being in a company where you've got the other actors on stage with you, and you admittedly you don't have a script if you're improvising, and all you've got for a prop or a couple of chairs. But it's a lot easier when you've got someone to bounce off of. But when I see people up on stage by themselves, that's just so naked. Man, I couldn't do that.
I couldn't do that either. I feel the same way with just performing solo, like just with the guitar. Like I prefer to have a band up there just to play off of, for sure. So
now, have you done a lot of solo work with just guitar and you?
No, not really. A little bit here and there, but yeah, I prefer a band for sure.
It's tough.
We do duo stuff. So.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when I look back at the gigs that I had playing solo, they were tough gigs.
Yeah.
Because mostly people, they hated you.
Yeah.
And they didn't want, like I'd be up there doing my little Jackson Brown songs, and they'd be going rock and roll. It's just
yeah.
I mean, well, actually, you can't do that. It's like, just me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about this, but I'm just super curious about like I on the different social media platforms I follow, Vintage Toronto, Blog TO, Toronto. There's all these Toronto sort of video things, and I guess I just don't want to lose. There's part of me that doesn't want to lose touch with the city, because a huge part of my life was in Toronto, like so I'm just super curious as to like 1978 when you're playing in Toronto. Where were you playing? Yorkville, Yonge Street? Where were the clubs?
Well, that was when I very first got a band, so they would send us off to just the loneliest places in the world. Man, I'm sure. Well, it's funny because I have a blog that I do that's on my Facebook page. It's called Sunday Morning Over Easy, and the last week's entry was about the worst insults that a musician or a band can receive while on stage. And I recalled my first band going on. We called it the Pipeline Tour, because we had to go to Northern Ontario and play in places like Nipigon and Hearst, Ontario. And if you live there, it wasn't your fault. But we were not received warmly, suffice to say.
Right.
And it's a tough grind. Like people think, oh, you're a musician, you're playing guitar for a living. Yeah, don't complain. But it's a grind, as you guys both know. I'm sure you went through your times of playing in places which were less than hospitable, I would say, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've had stuff thrown at us and
yes,
all of that. So
yeah.
Hurling
insults is one thing, but throwing bottles is another.
Yeah, yes. Bottles of Yop. Yeah.
So, okay, well, thank you for that. I just wanted to talk about.
I mean, sure. I played on Yonge Street. I remember there was a club. I used to see Rough Trade all the time playing at this place called the Chimney, and I thought they were the killerest band I'd ever seen, because they talk about session guys. They had like session players in that band, aside from Carol and Kevin. And did you ever see them perform in the back in the day?
Not
you guys are too young for that. Yeah. Oh man, they were so good. Crazy.
Yeah. Well,
good.
I know they did that direct to disc recording, which was pretty epic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So you're back. I want to talk back to now. Sorry for jumping around all over the place, but you've got just so many.
That's fine.
You've got so many.
It's a conversation. That's what happens, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. Now, when Much launched, it was out Queen East, right? Not Queen West. Like, was it 99?
Yes, that's true.
99
Briefly.
In that old building.
Yeah.
I know Mo and I went to do Toronto Rocks, that show one day.
Oh.
And yeah.
That was the tiniest studio that I have ever seen.
I was going to say that.
I mean, it was like getting into a packing crate with 3 people, It was tight.
It was really tight, but it was a lot of fun. And that's one thing that I think that, I don't know, music seemed to be so much more part of programming locally, like Toronto always sort of really sort of had a outlet, local papers like Now and and
Mm-hmm.
Much Music and shows like Toronto Rocks and all that sort of stuff. Where I think that's really kind of something that's lacking now is just a music based sort of showcase for local and Canadian artists or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those were
Well,
those were
so I mean,
different.
everything changes, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you can't keep anything the same. It's like people are very nostalgic about Much Music, and I get it because it was a fantastic time and it was very free and it was new and exciting. And, it was like the kind of the corner on the market. If you wanted to see videos from your favorite new acts, well, that's where you had to go for it. But I mean, eventually things give way to other things. And in the case of Much, of course, it's like if video killed the radio star, then the internet killed the video star, right?
yeah. Internet killed a
Mm.
lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Well, but it's also enabled us to do things that we couldn't do before. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
radio does not really play as much of a role as it once did in terms of breaking bands. Like when you guys came out, if you got on the radio, that was a ticket to some, like better gigs and all kinds of stuff, maybe record sales, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Mhm.
It's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
All right. So, books. You wrote the book about, was that your first book, the Much Music book?
No, I wrote 3 novels before that.
Okay. Mac goes
Um,
to The Road to Marseille and City of Lights. And,
well, I was living in Paris for a couple of years with my
right.
my then wife and daughter, and I was reading books to my daughter who was 5, and it seemed like there weren't any adventure books where the girl was a hero, right? I mean, there was like Pippi Longstocking and stuff, but there weren't. I mean, since then there have been a lot more, but at that time, this is like almost like 19, 20 years ago, and so I thought, well, I'll write her one, and I'll make my daughter the hero of the book. Her middle name is Mackenzie, so it became Mac in the City of Light. While we were living in Paris, and I just used all the local landmarks. And I mean, it's a very silly book, but I sure had a lot of fun writing it. It's
Right.
it's fun to
Yeah.
get out of your comfort zone and do something creatively that you've never done before. I like that.
Yeah.
No
So you wrote
kidding.
two of those, and then one called Dead Brilliant. Was that a part of that series as
Yeah.
well, or yeah?
No, that one was different. That was that was kind of like a parody of the music business in LA at around the time of the millennium. And
Right.
there's an artist who he's had a really successful career, but he split with his band, and everything's sort of going to hell for him. He breaks up with his longtime girlfriend, and the record sales fall off. His former band has a huge hit record, and he's left on the sidelines. So his manager talks him into faking his death in order to prolong his career, which he does with great success. So now he has to hide, but he has an opportunity to create like a posthumous career for himself, right? Like all these From the
Right.
Vault recordings.
Right.
It's sort of a nutty premise, but again, it
Oh,
was fun to do.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would think that like writing a book is such a
Sounds like a
such a
how-to.
it's such a large it's such a huge process, isn't it? Like jumping from writing lyrics to writing a book. Like it's it's
Well, I
it's a
kind of eased
long
into it with the
process.
kids' books, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're shorter and not as demanding, I don't think. But
Mhm.
also because I was doing it so innocently. I mean, there wasn't anybody waiting for it or looking in on me or going, well, I don't know about that. And, like I felt really free when I was doing it. I mean, admittedly, going from, 3 minutes and 10 seconds to 310 pages is a bit of a leap.
Yeah.
But you
Okay.
use, surprisingly, I find you use a lot of the same skills, your descriptive abilities. You don't have to have the narrative payoff in a song that you need to have in a story, of course, but,
Mhm.
there are other things that are required. Yeah,
Who
it's good.
who are your biggest influences as songwriters? Yeah, I'm just curious, like who inspired you to
Well,
write?
I love aside from like I grew up with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, that was sort of typical, and Bob Dylan. It was funny to hear you guys talking about this being the day that Like a Rolling Stone was recorded, because I'll never forget. We were living in Winnipeg, and the first time I was in my dad's car, the first time I heard Like a Rolling Stone, and it just stopped me cold, because I had just gotten my first guitar and I was starting to write poetry and all of that. And I just heard this and it was like, you can say that in a song? It was like, oh my God. And it's like it changed, and everything changed. As it is, it is when you're young and something comes along that bowls you over. It's like you just make up your mind that you're going to completely change everything that you've ever done and follow that lead,
Yeah.
But I was influenced by, the artists of the era, like Laura Nero. One of my favorite songwriters is a guy named Lowell George. He was the leader of the group Little Feat. And he just incorporated all these different styles, like this really kind of, very, very funky New Orleans style with sort of rock and roll stuff with country influences. And he just freely blended them all together. And that really, really appealed to me. So I always loved his music, but I also loved Motown music. Like Smokey Robinson, to me, is one of the greatest songwriters of all time. So, yeah. And you mentioned Lamont Dozier tonight from Holland Dozier Holland. And I had interviewed him back in the Much days, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I also got to write a song with him a couple of years ago. And Lamont is like, he's got to be 80 now. And he still gets up every morning and goes to the studio and writes.
Wow.
I mean, how fantastic is that? Like, to me, that's inspiring. That is inspiring for me to hear that.
No kidding. No kidding.
Did you ever do any writing with anyone from the Brill Building at any time, or?
No, I did interview Ellie Greenwich, and she was one of the main Brill Building writers. She wrote with Phil Spector and Jeff Barry, who was then her husband. But she wrote like "To Do Run Run" and "The Hanky Panky," and she wrote "Leader of the Pack."
Oh, wow.
You know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the motorcycle sound effects in it and everything.
Yeah.
And she was so cool. But it was really interesting to hear how she looked at her work, or how Lamont looked at his work. In his case, he said, we had a Monday morning meeting at 9:00, and Berry Gordy would be there, and he would say, okay, so we need songs for the following acts, like the Marvelettes need a song, the Supremes need a song, the Four Tops need a song, and just go down the list, and they would all make notes, and they'd go write their songs in their little rooms. He said, but if you were 5 minutes late, you were out of the meeting. I mean, he said Barry ran that place like it was an assembly line, because Berry Gordy had worked at Ford before he was a label owner.
Wow.
And similarly, Ellie Greenwich, she's like, oh yeah, we used to go to work in the Brill Building. We had these little cubicles. There'd be a piano and a couple of chairs. And, those rooms, if you've seen photographs of them, they were tiny.
Yeah.
There was no opulence whatsoever involved. But these people, they were writing the hits that defined people's lives at that time. It's amazing.
Yeah. I still feel like that's just, to me, would be the best job ever. I don't care if it was just a little room. You're going and writing songs. Like, oh my gosh, that's amazing to me. How
it is amazing.
How do you write? Like, do music come first, or do lyrics come first, or a little bit of both? Or I love these kind of stories. I love songwriting stories.
Oh, I could talk all night about those. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's different every time, because that would be an exaggeration, but there's no formal way to go about it. Some writers that I work with love it if I give them something that's like a complete lyric. It doesn't have to be a full song, but it could be like a whole verse and a chorus, or maybe just a section, because then they'll use that as a jumping off point, because there's something that's sort of rhythmic inherent in the lyrics that I've given them. But sometimes people will give me a piece of music and they want me to write both the melody and the lyric to that. Other times you'll just sit down in a room with somebody and a couple of guitars and just bang it out, You could start from a title. You could start from an opening line. If you have a great opening line, like I was thinking the other day about, because it just was last week, Bobby Gentry's song, Ode to Billy Joe, begins, "It was the 3rd of June, another sleepy, dusty Delta day." And I just thought, yeah, I know
Mhm.
exactly where I am and how I feel and what temperature it is. And,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if somebody said to you, "Oh, I got this idea," and then they quoted that line, you'd be off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd know exactly where your destination was. It might take you a
It's
while
so
to get
true.
there, but
Yeah.
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 So anything can be, the stimulus for a song idea. A bit of conversation you overhear on the
Yeah.
bus, literally.
Right.
Yeah, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own.
yeah, everybody's got their own thing, but I always find it just I love hearing the stories because of course as a writer, you like to try out different things. Like, I remember hearing the story of David Bowie and him writing songs. Sometimes they would write lines and then they would cut them up and throw them in
Yeah.
the air, and wherever they landed together, that that's what that was the line.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
stories like that I just
And then
love,
make it work.
and then make it work.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And David Lee Roth, Eddie Van Halen used to give him tapes, and he would drive around and sing and write lyrics to the music.
Yeah,
Many
Yeah.
different things. Yeah.
yeah,
I
no
think a lot of
kidding.
people work that way for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some songs, some songs have a story attached to them. I mean, Black Velvet's one of those stories.
Mhm.
MuchMusic sent me on an assignment to go to Memphis on the 10th anniversary of Elvis's death with 40 Elvis fans in a Greyhound bus. So, uh, and I mean, I wasn't like the biggest Elvis fan. I admired it, but I wasn't like a rabid fan the way these people were. So we kind of followed them through their experience of going to Graceland and the candlelight vigil, going by the graveside and touring the house and all that stuff. And it was trying to absorb their passion and everything that it meant to them. And while I was on the way there in the bus, of course, I had plenty of time on my hands, and I was reading this book. This woman went to Tupelo to find out about Elvis's family because that's where he grew up, and she went to the church where they went and saw the preacher falling down on one knee and like exhorting the congregation, right? And at the moment, it occurred to her that what the preacher was doing reminded her of Elvis's stage moves. How he would fall down and like he'd bend his knee and sort of fall.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's where I got the idea for the line, "A new religion that'll bring you to your knees."
Mm-hmm.
So like some songs, I kind of, I make notes about them for a long time, like research, and then pull it all together when it's time, when the time is right.
Ah.
Yeah. So do you actually have a book that you keep with you at all times, or now is it on your phone where you're like, oh, that line's great? You write it
Yeah, it could
down.
be on the phone, but I have tons of little notebooks everywhere I go. And I mean, I'm always making notes.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is I don't let it get away. I don't say, "Oh, if it's any good, I'll remember it." No,
Yeah,
you
no,
won't.
right?
You
It
know.
never happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
I always write them down,
Mm.
and it's great because a lot of times I'm sure you found this where you write something down, and then you go back to it like days or a week later or weeks later, whatever. You go, "I don't remember any of that." It's like it came from some other person.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
you're looking at somebody else's diary. It feels like it's weird.
Yeah.
But it's great because then it feels incredibly fresh and new, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were doing some writing with Jay Semko, and he said somewhere that sometimes the first verse you write is actually the second verse.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an interesting thing to
Yeah,
think
he
about.
kind of
Yeah.
learned things from who
Yeah.
he wrote with,
Yeah.
just little things like that. So, yeah, it's kind of
So,
cool.
anyways, Christopher, we got more to talk to you about. I hope that you're not feeling like this is going long in the
Too
tooth
long.
because we're really enjoying this conversation. But we do have
No, it's
we do have a
lovely
sponsor.
talking to you guys.
Oh, cool. We do have a sponsor, and we're going to read the ad
Yeah, we'll just take a
for
couple of minutes or
Christy Weiss. And
1
Ian,
minute.
Ian, I'm not sure if there's one or two this week or if it's just Christy, but we'll start with Christy's. Christy Weiss.
Giving a shout out to our sponsors.
Shout out to our sponsor,
yeah.
Christy Weiss, BBA, Bookkeeping, and PST Consulting Services. There it is on screen right now, www.christyweiss.com. Bringing balance to your books and your business. For many business people, time is a precious commodity. Isn't that the truth?
Oh, boy.
Using a bookkeeping service can save time and provide peace of mind knowing your records are up to date and accurate. With years of experience, Christy can provide efficient and accurate bookkeeping at reasonable rates. She can also help navigate our PST system, making sure you don't end up owing more than you thought. I think she worked for the government on PST collections, so she knows
So
that
she knows
pretty
her
good.
stuff really
She's a
good.
super nice lady. If you want to check out ChristyWeiss.com or Christy Weiss BBA on Facebook, we thank you for being one of our sponsors, Christy, and I hope this finds
Are
you
we
some new work.
also doing? Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about Same River Twice. You did that as a pandemic record. You already told us that.
Not intentionally. I didn't
Yeah.
plan that part.
But you were probably going to make it, and then the pandemic happened, and you still made the record anyways. But we listened to it a bunch. It's really, really nice. And we were talking about
It's
influences,
beautiful.
and what I, when I
Thank
hear
you.
stuff, I draw from my sort of pool of where I think, oh, that kind of reminds me of, oh, that phrasing was like this, or that was kind of like someone else. And
Right.
there's sort of a Robbie Robertson thing going on with your music. And I guess he's a great Canadian songwriter as well.
Truly
And
great writer. Yeah.
I don't know if that's any thing that you would want to draw any comparison to, but another guy too, that there's just some odd thing that struck me, made me think of Garland Jeffries at some point. Now I don't know
Wow.
whether
Wild in
it's
the streets, huh?
well, yeah, but some of his, more sensitive stuff, I guess. But there's something there that I heard, and another guy named Randall Bramblett. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Is he Delaney and Bonnie's son?
Yeah, maybe something like that. But anyways, I'm listening to your stuff and I'm going, wow, this is pretty cool. So, I know that you did a cover. I guess it's not a cover; it's your own version of Black Velvet. And
Yeah. Is it a cover if it's your own song? That's one of
yeah,
the
that's
Zen
right,
questions of the moment, you know?
Oh, yeah.
good question. Was the first version of that Alana's? Like, was that you worked with her on that? Was that the demo intentionally for her, or did you kind of write it and say, "Hey, this might be good for you"?
Well, it was written for her.
Yeah.
We were working on songs for her first album, and her producer, Dave Tyson, said, man, it'd be great if we had a shuffle feel, which is what Black Velvet is. It's the do, 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 that kind of feel, right? I said, well, I just so happens I've been working on something. So I played them the verse and the chorus of Black Velvet. And Alana was like, that's mine. I love that. And just, climbed inside it and owned it instantly. And then Dave said, do you have a bridge? And I said, no. And he said, well, can I take a crack at writing one? And I said, yeah, sure. So he wrote the music for the bridge. So that's how that came about. But yeah, I kind of wasn't sure about doing it for the record because it's pretty hard to compare to the original, just because people know that song and love it, and they hear it one way. They've heard it one way for 30 odd years. It's like, how can I possibly stand up to that? But I thought, no, I understand it in a way that other people don't, and I think I can communicate that feeling. That I call it the front porch kind of storyteller version of the song. It's not like a torch song the way that Alana approaches it. So it was kind of different. Yeah. The Robbie Robertson reference is interesting because there was a bunch of records that we were listening to around the time of making the record. It was like we were listening to J.J. Cale and listening to the Staple Singers and some Bob Dylan, and one of my producers, Aaron, brought out a copy of How to Be Clairvoyant, the Robbie Robertson record, and I'd never heard it before, and I was like, oh man, this is it. This is the sound. This is perfect. So it became like one of the go-to sort of touchstones for us while we were making the record. Yeah, but you're right. It wasn't a pandemic record. It was planned just before. I'd gotten together with Aaron and Luke McMaster, a couple of Winnipeg guys, and we'd gotten together like just around Christmas time, right?
Mhm.
And then the pandemic started in March. But we'd already sort of decided what we were going to do, started to write some songs, and then I brought in like 5 or 6 that I'd written on my own. And then we thought, well, is this going to happen? Because it seemed like everything was shutting down. But remember, there was a moment where the studios reopened for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Right.
boom. So we just went right in the door and booked, like a couple of months at the fabulous Orange Lounge Studios in Toronto, which is an amazing
Okay.
room to work in.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
yeah,
Aubrey.
That's Aubrey Winfield, right?
Aubrey Winfield's place, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we, we did it, like I said, we did it live off the floor. And then, we took more time with the vocals and the guitar overdubs and mixes and everything else. But we mixed it there too, same engineer. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Well, I for one, when I first started seeing things about, Black Velvet, you're releasing Black Velvet, I kind of thought, awesome. I'd love to hear the writer's version of that
Mm-hmm.
song. And it is a little more subdued, but it's you still get the same message, and
Mm-hmm.
it really works. And I think it was
Oh, good.
a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and the one thing I love about that record that you just did is that it's not like, hey man, you're like, man, I'm a songwriter and these are my songs. It's not like I got to get on, hit radio. I got to write a hit. And it's just like, not that none of
No.
them could or wouldn't ever be a hit, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, you can tell that it's just like, this is my craft and this is what I do. And I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope you
Just
enjoy
great
it. And
songs, and yeah.
very,
And,
which is very kind of refreshing,
mm-hmm.
so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're right. It was definitely not. Shawn Mendes is not worried.
Yeah. Right. So how do you find your audience today? Is it
It's a good question.
where do you find your
You get out and talk to people. You talk to people who love music like you guys, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And you build your audience incrementally, the way that people used to, by playing in clubs and entertaining and winning fans over. Yeah, that's and.
Are you
I
when
mean,
things open?
people have been incredibly receptive to this. I didn't know what to expect. I thought, well, there could be kind of cynicism about it. It's like, well, really, do you? And people would say, like, so why'd you make this record? There's a little bit of, did you have to? It was like,
Right.
well, it's because I'm a songwriter. That's who I am. It's what I do. It's what I love to do the most.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it was a passion project for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
It's something you
Exactly.
can never stop doing. Like, it's just, songwriters will keep doing it until whenever, till they're 80, just like you had mentioned, like just to be able to go in the studio
Yeah,
and record songs. Like, what a joy.
Like,
it is a
Why
joy.
not? Why not?
That's exactly
yeah.
right. But I think people do get discouraged and they get tired and they feel burnt out by what they've done, or they'll feel like the music business has passed them by, or that things are so different now. I just didn't care about any of those things. I just did it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And that's the way it was at the very beginning, playing music and writing songs. Like, I mean, yes, it can be discouraging. Of course, the music business can be discouraging and all that, but it's just to try to get back to why you do it in the first place, just because it
yeah.
takes you to a different place. It takes you into present moment, and you're just there, and it's just to love, right? So, yeah.
And also, I think, as you move through life at different times, you have different things to say and different
Mhm.
things to write about. And your perspective is different. It's like writing a love song now. I'm not going to write some, get up on the rooftop and beat my chest kind of, exclamation about love. It's going to be a quieter, more about the trust that's part of love, as opposed to the passion. I mean, it's hard to explain, but
Mm-hmm. No,
Well,
for
yeah,
sure, for
love
sure.
as a philosophical entity, I guess, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
it's
for
just a
sure.
quieter, more personal thing, the older you
Hmm.
get, I think.
Right.
And I think the world needs to hear different perspectives all along people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The beating on the chest thing is just for so many people. There's a lot of different
Yeah.
people out there.
There's a lot of non-chest beaters that like music, right?
That's right.
So,
That's right.
do you have anything planned for the upcoming reopening of things? Are you going to do some dates with the band? Are you going to do some solo acoustic stuff? Or
I don't know. When I think about all those band insults that I talked about in my blog, I mean, probably not. I mean, no, I just, that isn't why I did this, was to go on tour.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be fun to do shows, but when the reality of it is different, the travel and
Yeah.
I don't know. I get tired just thinking about that part, but you never know. You never know, right?
You never know. Yeah, exactly.
In the meantime, do you do? I saw on your website there's some songwriting videos. Do you do clinics on that as well, or is it just mostly tutorials online?
I have done some. I did one for the Long McQuaid Music Store that's on their website. Just like 2 hours of talking about songwriting, which is for me easy because it's something that I love doing, but I'm also very interested in how other people do it. The mechanics of songwriting are just endlessly fascinating to me. As it happens, next week I got invited to do a whole day on lyric writing for this British Academy of Songwriting. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's going to be
pretty
fun.
cool.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah.
So, the life of this record, do you foresee it then just sort of being, what we find too is like you get nowadays what you get out of it, what you put into it. So, to keep your record alive and try and keep people's attention focused on it, you got to stay active and get that
Mhm.
promotion thing going. So, are you content to see how far it goes, or are you going to just keep, talking about it and doing, promo where and when you can?
Well, there's been, for me, a surprisingly a lot of interest in this record, and people have wanted to talk about it. And maybe part of it is the novelty of somebody doing something late in their career, or just the way we did the record. There's kind of a story attached to that. People are kind of fascinated by that because in the time of COVID, I mean, the whole digital creation of music became more important and became like an essential way of people, just sending files from one person to the next and adding parts and all of that. I mean, I don't like to work that way, but thank heavens we have that available to us in this time, right? So I don't. Yeah, I'll talk about it as long as people are interested in talking about it, and I mean, maybe some artists will record some of the songs. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. I don't think we're done here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you probably have, a suitcase full of songs that you've never done anything with.
There's a
Are you,
few.
are you thinking? Are you thinking that there's going to be like this is a renewed spark for you? Like next year there'll be another
You
record,
know,
or
if you'd asked me that about 2 months ago, I would have gone, "Are you kidding? It took me 30 years to do this one." But cut to now, and I'm thinking, God, that was fun. I want to do that again.
yeah, right?
It was like falling in love all over again.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, if you have any lyrics just laying around, send them my way. I'm a music gal, and I love it.
Okay.
So we have to
Yeah.
collaborate. I would love
Yeah.
that. It would be such a thrill.
Yeah, well, again, back when Black Velvet came out, we were, working hard, a band, a Queen Street band, the 401 circuit, started getting into the States, and then Black Velvet comes out, and it was everywhere. You could not get away from hearing Black Velvet. It
Did
was
you
just,
know? Did you guys know that was going to happen? Did you have any clue whatsoever?
No idea whatsoever. It wasn't even the first single that the record label chose. They chose the song "Love Is," which was their first single.
Right.
I mean, you don't. I don't think you know. I mean, especially the people that create the music. It's like we know the least
right.
what we've done. I mean, we know what we like and we're attached to songs, but to be able to objectively go, well, that one's going to be the one that makes the difference.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Hey, well, there's like 0 degrees of separation now because actually, when I think of it, we had Rob Bartolucci play guitar on the first Universal Honey album,
Pardon me.
Mhm.
and I think that was Rob, not Kurt, that played the beginning to Love Is, wasn't it? Or did Kurt redo that?
No, it was Kurt.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Bob played on some demos for us.
Okay. And then,
Um,
then later we had Kurt play on our one of our EPs that we put out. So
oh, cool.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Aubrey
I mean,
Winfield.
I can't
Albert
remember if
Winfield,
we
yeah.
used. I can't remember if we used anything of Bob's on the record or not. It was certainly dominantly Kurt, and then we had another guy named David Whipper who played the acoustic guitars. He
Right.
did all of those.
Oh wow.
So,
Okay.
Oh, they're all
Well,
great
yeah.
guitar players.
all
Oh,
great guitar
Kurt
players.
and
Kurt's
Bob. Oh my
amazing.
God,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, and again, Aubrey Winfield. We worked with Aubrey early on too. So
That's right.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's a small world.
It is a small
Yeah.
one. Jeff Rogers and Sue Drew. So
That's
yeah,
right. And yeah, that's right. Crazy.
this is a family reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you get calls a lot to write with people?
Yeah.
Does Jeff actively go out and say, "Hey, you should write a song with Chris Ward"?
Well, Jeff's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, and we only started working together, like in the managerial sense, just in the last few months. So we haven't really gotten to that point. But certainly, he has a lot of credibility in my world. And if he were to say, "Hey, I've got this person who I think you might match up with well," then yeah, I certainly would consider it.
Mm.
Okay. I think we're talking here for about an hour, almost, but not totally.
Yes.
So
Sorry if it's gone too long for you, but it's just we have so many questions for you. It's been so awesome having
No,
you
it's
on.
been a pleasure talking with you guys.
we could
I really.
probably spend the night drinking some wine and talking all night about music.
Yeah, no kidding. Yes,
Well, when I get to Saskatoon, we will do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or when we get back to Toronto sometime soon, hopefully when the restrictions
Yes,
lift.
we will be there soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just call Jeff and we'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been great having you on here. I know that
Thank you.
it only seems like a little while ago where you were asking the questions, and now here we are asking you the questions, which is one of life's little mysteries, how things happen. You never know. And
It's been amazing.
it's
Thank
been
you
fun
so
talking to
much
you.
for coming
The
on.
kind of the kind of
My pleasure, Leslie.
the kind of story that you have is a common thread with people who actually end up doing something in the music business, and that is just the drive and determination and the never giving up. So you're an inspiration, Mr. Ward. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you so much. That was very kind of you to say. And it was really fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Awesome. Yeah.
So till our paths cross again, may your road be smooth, and
good luck with the show. It sounds like you're having some fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like it's just.
And I like the theme song. I like the theme music too.
It's fun.
We wrote that a long time ago for something, and we never used it. It was just kind of a demo. So yeah,
I like it.
Oh,
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, continued success on your musical journey and authoring. I hope you write more books, write more songs, and get to tell your story through music and words.
Yes.
Again, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Christopher. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good night. Well, I kind of felt like I didn't want to take up too much of his time.
Well, I know.
And at times I felt like
it was over an hour.
He's like the biggest
awesome.
star we've ever interviewed. And I was kind of like, I hope I don't sound stupid, which is not.
Yeah, no
difficult.
kidding. Yeah, no, he's
At the best of
amazing and
times.
so humble.
Yeah.
After having so much
Yeah,
success,
can you
like, oh my
imagine?
God, like,
Yeah.
crazy success. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's fantastic. And it was just an honor to be able to speak with him. So thank you for coming on. Okay, we want to also just do a little wrap up here and talk about
I hope we did him justice. I hope we
hope
covered it well.
I hope so. Yeah. Well, there's a billion other things to ask him about, though. Really.
A billion.
Yes. So thank you to Christopher Ward for coming on the show. We want to thank our sponsor, Christy Weiss's bookkeeping and PST counseling services. And please subscribe and follow No YXE on YouTube and on Facebook. And that's about it. We're going to also promote a couple of other No YXE shows right now. YXE Sports Podcast, Mondays at 6 p.m. Let's Chat, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Sportsline, Thursday at 12:15. In Focus YXE, Thursday at 7 p.m. And Slow TV YXE, Sunday at 10 a.m. And the green room will be on next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Hope you guys have a great week. If you're an artist and you have something coming up, be sure to email us at thegreenroomyxe@noyxe.com. Everybody have a great week.
Oh, just people in the Melfort area get to see Tucker Lane on July 1st.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. July 1st, we're going to be playing in Melfort. That'll be fun. Everybody have a great week. Take care.
See you next time.
Keep rocking and rolling.